We concluded.
Your mic's...
Larry, just get a little closer.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm going to allow Councilmember Carr to pick up in just a few moments. We're going to get right to the public testimony here, okay? We're going to get right to the public testimony. Let us hear now for everyone to be heard. We need to allow who's ever speaking, in fact, to be heard for a couple minutes. And as I said, our commitment over the next 2 days is to ensure that everybody's voice is in fact heard. I want to hear from some members of the public. We're going to improvise a little bit. After we get started, I'm going to ask Chief Hahn, District Attorney Schubert, and Francine Turnout to make brief presentations. Okay, but let's get right to the public testimony here, please.
I'll read the first three: Pastor Les Simmons, Basim El-Kira, and then Pastor Ephraim Smith.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yeah. This is a space that we find ourselves in that is going to require us to really lean really deep. This past week, I had the opportunity to survey the land while marching with my community, surveying it from downtown to South Sac and other parts of the community. And in my faith tradition, it reminds me of a story of Nehemiah. When he went and surveyed the land, he found out that all corners of it, his people were hurting, and the gates were torn down, and it brought him to a place of great trauma. I find myself saying to us today, in my community, in our community, our folks are hurting. They need equity. They need investment. They need the cost of their lives to be more than the cost of a few broken windows. Fair housing. They need fair housing, somebody shouted out. Today we're here, we're in this space, and we're leaning all in, and it's up to us to fix it. It's up to us to lean in. I prepared this nice little 2-minute speech for us, but I'm a pastor. It takes me 2 minutes to just start up. I think we already started up, though. Tonight, another faith tradition of mine is advocacy, is making sure that accountability and justice are given to those that injustices are happening to. I'm asking us to lean in. I'm asking us to understand black pain. I'm asking us to decide to build black communities, to decide to invest in our communities tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
I'm going to make my remarks short, but I'll say that, as someone who's been working for justice and accountability for many years, and chairing the City of Sacramento Community Police Review Commission, this one's a tough one because it also hits close to home. Because I know Selena's family, I've known her father for over a decade, and going to the spot where he was killed just the other day and visiting the family, this one hits close to home. Despite that, I'm confident that the work of the city and the police commission and the community all working together, there's been a lot of progress, but not enough. Every time a death happens, it takes us a step back. But we still our resolve has to be stronger today than ever. So I'm going to cut my remarks short because I'm here as a police commissioner to listen to the community. I want to hear the community, making sure that the commission represents the community when we advocate on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Basim.
Here is Pastor Ephraim Smith, then Jackie Rose, then Tanya Faison.
I want to make my remarks brief to give room for those behind me that have lived in this city longer than me, the opportunity to share their grief, their pain, and solutions that are burning in their heart. I'm fairly new to this city, only being here less than a year, but I pastor a church in the heart of this city that is very multiracial, very multicultural, that is made up of both cousins, relatives of the Clark family, and made up of police officers. I have a challenge before me because it's my job to shepherd, to give leadership, to pastor, to speak to constituencies that can be divided, broken, hurting, grieving, angry, but not on the same day. I'm charged to get up before them and speak justice, speak truth, speak reconciliation, speak restoration, and speak a lot of things that would hopefully build bridges and not drive people deeper into a divide. I'm asking you to do the same thing. Respectfully, Mr. Mayor, respectfully, City Council, respectfully, police leadership and others, join me and other pastors, other advocates, other activists in bringing people together and building bridges and not being a part of unfortunate fuel on a burning fire. I also want to say this. I do believe, and this might not be popular, that we have a chief that has been called for such a time as this, but also must be called to accountability, but he's the right leader for this time. But I will end my comments in saying this. I grew up in a city and in a neighborhood where grandma's backyard was a sacred place. I could play in grandma's yard. I could learn in grandma's yard. Sometimes I got a switch in my grandma's backyard. But I never ever thought that I would die in my grandma's backyard.
Next speaker is Jackie Rose, Tanya Faison, and then Barry Ackius.
Please, Jackie Rose, Tanya Faison, and
Jackie Rose.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I come to you this evening with a really, really heavy heart. And it's heavy because Meadowview is the community that I represent and have for over 3 decades. And I come to you today also after witnessing what I just witnessed, because I've been working with the family since this thing happened. And I will just say, on behalf of the grandmother and the mother, they want this to be very peaceful. They want us to be very respectful. That's the message that I keep getting from them. And so, although we're seeing what we seen a few minutes ago, I will say that Stavante is really in a grieving mode, and we respect that, and I hope you all understand that. I will also say that our community is in a lot of pain. It's pain. It's a lot of pain and suffering. This pain and suffering has been there for a long time. This just didn't happen when Stephon Clark got shot. It's been there for a while. The poverty that exists, the situation with our schools being, our African-American kids being underachievers in our schools, all of those things have been there for a long time. And we are now at a point where we are tired. We are really tired. And this is really difficult for me, simply because I love Sacramento. I was born and raised here. I love Sacramento, but I also love Meadowview, and I love that community, and it's in pain. Kids are in pain. They're scared to come out their houses. Just before spring break, when this happened, nobody went into those schools to offer trauma, any kind of trauma for those kids who have been suffering. We need that. We need to recognize that it's not just a city issue. There's other government entities within our community that need to address these things head on. Our community is in pain, and we need help. And so I come to you with a heavy heart today. But I'm also really, really upset, and I'm heartbroken at the same time. Thank you.
Hey, Jackie. Thank you.
Anya Faison, Barry Atticus, and then Reverend Kevin Ross.
So what you saw tonight was the truth. It's the truth. This is how people feel, and we can't, like the chief said today, that we should be peaceful and nonviolent. I was really I was really offended by that. Because we shouldn't be telling people how to mourn and how to be traumatized. We should be providing help for people. And we need community oversight. Like we've been needed this. Like we've been coming to you for the last 2 years talking about this. We don't get anything from you. And just like she just said, everything's falling on us. Everything is falling on our communities. The cost of living is ridiculous. And then some of y'all say that middle income is like hundreds of thousands. Like, no, we're poor. I make good money, but I'm still poor. And it's hard to find a house to live. I want to live in Oak Park. That's where I'm from. I can't live in Oak Park anymore. I got to live in a white neighborhood because my old historically black neighborhood is too expensive for me to live in. Everything is falling on us, and then on top of this, you're killing us. You're killing us. It's genocide. It feels like genocide. Last year, 7 people. We're fighting for 7 people. Black Lives Matter Sacramento, fighting for 7 people. That's ridiculous. The year before, 3 people. The year before, 1 person. In 3 years, that's like 13 people. My math is bad, but either way, we're fighting for too many people. Girls are being thrown on their pregnant stomachs by the police, by SAC PD. Armani Lee was shot up by SAC PD at close range, still has bullets in his body. People are suffering. We are tired. Those officers need to be fired. Howard Chan, those officers need to be fired. That's the only way that we're gonna get any type of justice to start is when you start convicting these officers. When there's repercussions for when they kill us in the street, that's when we're gonna start seeing changes. That's when they'll stop killing us because they don't wanna lose their money.
I don't know if I should jump on the podium or just stand right here. It's Barry Axius. Barry Axius. We are in a moment that in 2014 I said to the SAC council here, for some members that weren't here, but some members that were here, that Sacramento is just like Ferguson. We're only one national movement and moment away from that. And here we are. Here we are in that moment when we asked in 2014 for changes. 2016 came Joseph Mann, and now 2018, say his name. I would like, since you guys could all stand up for the pledge, which I don't know why you did that. Can we all stand for a second? Can we all stand for a second, people? If y'all stood for the pledge, stand what I'm asking, stand, please. Now, everybody take out your cell phone. Take out your cell phone. Let's take out a cell phone. Take out a cell phone. Direct the cell phone to the council. Point it at the council. Point it at, everyone point it at the council. Point it at the council. Quiet, please, family. Point it at it. Point it at it. I need people. Now, does this look? Hold on a second, family. Family. It's my moment. It's our moment. Does this look, as you point this to our council, does this look like a gun? And I ask you guys, we ask you guys, we're not begging, we're just saying, in the reality of where we're at right now in this moment, we must look at what is going on in here, out there, and ask yourself, was the decision a right decision? Does this look like a gun to you? We are at our moment, Sacramento, and we, Sacramento, must change Sacramento together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Barry.
Next speaker is Reverend Kevin Ross, then Sarah Gaston, and then Ryan McClinton.
Excuse me 1 second, Reverend Ross. I just want to make sure that the door is closed so that we can hear you, sir.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. It's fine.
We want to hear Reverend Ross.
I'm fine with that. It's okay. Every now and again, we get to witness what the deep, deep aggravation and pain and frustration of historical oppression looks like.
Every now and again, there is a sudden, spontaneous eruption. And what we just saw a moment ago with Stefante was that in public. And rather than be afraid of it, this is our opportunity to really put skin in the game and to be a part of being the change we say we are here to see. We have been trained to fear each other, but we have not been trained to hear each other. And so there's now a new form of policing that we are dealing with in our community, and it's tone policing. The policing that says that if the way I express my deep pain and woundedness that has been a part of a historical cross-country, long-distance relay race passed forward from generation to generation, if we show that pain and express that pain in public, that somehow it causes you to be less. But it's actually your opportunity to rise up and show your true humanity. Black pain does not equate to violence. It does not mean we wish to be violent. The activities that have been taking place on behalf of the leadership that have been organized have walked in the way of Dr. King in the ways of civil disobedience. Our interest is not to tear up the city of Sacramento. Our interest is to lift up the city of Sacramento so that we can be a beacon unto the nation. This is our moment. This is our time to shine. Sacramento has an opportunity to lead. Dr. Howard Washington Thurman once said to Morehouse College, he says, Morehouse, please don't let God repent for having created you. Sacramento leadership, please don't make God repent for having sent you here. It's our time to shine. Let's do it.
Briefly, before we get out of here, my name is Keon Johnson. My job is outside with the people, so I ain't got much to say. That shit you seen when homeboy got up here and jumped up on it scared the shit out of all y'all, didn't it? Right? The shit you hear outside is scaring you, ain't it? You should be. If we don't get the change that we want and that we demanding right now, you're going to have a lot on your hands. You're going to have a hell of a lot of shit on your hands. We tired of begging. We tired of asking. We not asking for no more. We demanding. We telling y'all. You hear the people. You hear the people, and you hear the voices inside right now. But I'm out of here. My job is with the people.
Our next speaker is Sarah Gaston, and then Ryan McClinton. Sarah? Sarah Gaston, Ryan McClinton.
Can I just have all the mothers please stand? Can I have all the mothers in here please stand with us? Where is Imani?
Should I just get started?
Yeah.
We are Black Women United. Our nonprofit organization was founded on the principle of educating, protecting, and advancing Black women. We stand here today to uphold the voices of Black women from all walks of life, socioeconomic statuses, and across every spectrum. We are here to amplify the voices of Black mothers, sisters, cousins, and daughters whose voices go unheard, whose cries are ignored, and whose advocacy work goes dismissed by this city council.
Last year, women involved in SAC-AC and in many other organizations stood before you demanding police reform through the Police Commission. We asked for an independent investigator. What a lovely soundtrack to speak to. That's beautiful. We asked for an independent investigator, the right to subpoena. We asked for permission to review policy, and we asked for the ability to assess the police department's budget and access data. While Councilmember Larry Carr, along with the rest of the council, rejected these demands, Larry Carr did propose and pass a use of force policy. We would like answers as to whether SAC-PD followed the guidelines for the use of this force policy, and if not, what steps need to be taken by council to assure that they comply with city policy. The police investigating themselves has shown little to no resolve or assurance that they will change their abusive tactics. If you had passed the demands set by the community, we probably wouldn't even be here. We know from all the research that we did when we went to Berkeley that when PD or any police department has someone to answer to, they're more likely to practice restraint. In the face of gun violence, has far-reaching consequences. Last year, Helen Hare was killed in South Carolina in Charlottesville, and I saw most of you there in a silent protest here at City Council. But that's because she fit the description for your sympathy. But when it's a black mother or a black father or a black sister that fails at the same hand of white supremacy, the same hand of compassion is not extended to my community. The face of gun violence is diverse. From China Gibson to Charlena Lyles to Stephen Clark, and as our elected officials, you must represent every form of injustice, even when the face of the victim reflected back at you don't look like you. That is imperative. And I, too, was raised by many black women in this room. And when times of peril in my mother's household, she would say, Satan, I'm going to pray your kingdom down. So I'm saying that to y'all. And when we pray your kingdom down, we're not just going to pray your kingdom down, we're going to vote your kingdom down, too.
That's the sound I made on December 18th, 2013, when police chaplains knocked on my door to tell me that my son, Trey Alexander Howard, had been murdered. Councilman Jennings, when Trey was in middle school, he was reading a book called, it was the Rick Warren book, I can't remember it now. He was sitting outside, Purpose-Driven Life. You walked by him and you said, young man, what are you reading? And he showed you the book. You said, you read that and apply its principles and you'll have a good life. He died at 21. The mothers are wearing the flowers today because that scream, many of them have screamed themselves. And the other ones that did not scream it yet fear that it is just a bullet away. I am standing here representing my son. I'm a pastor. I'm a nonprofit organization. My platform is normally with breast cancer, but today I'm a mother. And I'm angry, and things must change now. I watched the movie Black Panther, and when the Black Panther was gonna kill Claw, his sister said to him, no, the world is watching. Sacramento, the world is watching.
Our next speaker is Ryan McClinton, then Rashid Sadiq.
Somebody hold that door open, please. Both doors, please. I usually won't come up here and grab the microphone for several reasons. But the biggest reason is because my voice matters less than those voices you're hearing right now. That's the voices of the folks who put every one of you in power, from the DA to the chief of police, the folks that you stand for. I don't sleep at night for those voices. For that young man who came in here and looked crazy to y'all, I've sat in meeting spaces with several of you, and I fought back my own personal emotion to try to find strategies how we get systemic change. And I'll do it again and again and again and again where I don't have any energy, because they deserve that much. But the reality is, that's unfiltered pain. That's unfiltered pain that we live in, that we walk in, that we can't escape from. I needed those voices to be heard because those are your people. Those are our people. This is another black life that's been taken down by law enforcement, by a failed, wrongly built system. Sacramento has a unique opportunity to be ground zero for that change, so we don't have to lose another life. So those voices outside, those voices that you can't hear outside of those windows, don't have to cry out in pain anymore. That we can lift up the babies, understand generational babies. I'm not talking about a solution for the next 5 years, 5 minutes, 10 years, 20 years. I'm talking generational, 50, 60, 70 years. That's what we have the power to do as elected officials, as community leaders, faith leaders, to stand up for, to change. The fear that you seen in those officers was because they went into a community that is so downtrodden by pain and suffering and poverty that they didn't know what they would expect. Let's be honest about it. And the reality is they shouldn't expect that, because no property in this world is worth a life. Nothing that can be bought or built is worth a life. And we're living in that pain. We're not begging for the change anymore. We're building it. We want to build it with you, and we hope to build it with you because Sacramento's leadership needs to be that. But I have to be honest. If we can't build it with you, we're going to build it with the ones who will get it done, because we can't take it anymore. I respect you guys. I do. But I love them. I love this community. I love this crowd more than I love anything. I've lost my voice several times this week, and I'll lose it again if another black life dies. I'm asking you to stand with the voices of the people that you're hearing today. I'm asking you all of you, not one being exempt, to be the champion of change that Sacramento needs. Bring it to every constituent you have, every peer you have, every higher up that you may deem to be more powerful. I need you to be that champion of change. Because that's what these people in here are today. The champions of change for those voices that can't be heard, for the Stephon Clarks that will never be heard.
Next speaker is Reverend Dr. Coretta Grizel, then Cassandra Jennings, and then Chet Hewitt.
Charles Albers, somewhere there.
Reverend Grizel.
Charles. Hey, we'll take you after that group, okay? You get on up.
Yeah, Mr. Oliver, you're after Chet Hewitt.
Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, I am pastor of Murphy Manuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in North Highlands, and I am the Social Action Director of the California Conference of the AME Church, and I represent the 5th Episcopal District of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, where Bishop Clement W. Few is the Episcopal Prelate. We are alarmed, appalled, and angry at the continued inexcusable and irresponsible way that some police officers have displayed the unnecessary, excessive force, particularly as it relates to African American males, that in many cases appears to be in execution style. Black folks have gone through the horrors of slavery, lynchings, Jim Crowism, racism, discrimination, and much, much more. Not only that, racial profiling has been a problem since slavery and continues even in the city of Sacramento. And disparate treatment in certain communities cannot be denied. We have been at this juncture before, and we do acknowledge some advances since the Joseph Mann case in 2016. But we are sick and tired of being tired and killed by those with whom we pay and are supposed to protect us. It is evident that the Sacramento Police Department General Orders 58002, use of force dated 5/16/17, that says it shall be the policy of the Sacramento Police Department that officers value and preserve the sanctity of human life at all times, was not used in the case of Stephen Clark on Sunday evening, March 18, 2018. Conflicting reports on what was assumed to be in Stevens' hand, toolbar, crowbar, gun, and the muting of devices that would shed some light on the reality of what really happened, only drive deeper wedges between trust of law enforcement and the African American residents of this community. We demand justice. We serve a God of justice, and we demand justice.
Thank you, Pastor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Cassandra Jennings, President and CEO of the Greater Sacramento Urban League. I too come to you with a heavy heart. We are all hurting. We have a voice. We're all in a place with a call to action. I want to talk to you a little bit about being the change we want to see. And you will see that the shirts we have and the signs we have in Build Black is about a movement, not just a moment. We have come together as a coalition of activists, nonprofits, legal support teams, youth advocates, faith leaders, and all the Sacramento community to fight for equity. We have come together in the wake of another tragic death of an unarmed black man, Stephon Clark, at the hands of the police, and we are here to commit our time, our resources, and our considerable experience to a shared mission of proactive investment and radical transformation for black communities. We look at that in four areas: uplifting the black youth voices and really hearing what the youth and the people have to say. We also look at it from a health and equity access. You have heard some of that in the cry tonight. We also look for justice and policing in our black communities. And we would hope that you will continue to look at training, accelerate that training, as well as look at the use of force. And Finally, it's about the investment in the black neighborhoods and businesses. You have heard that we want to build black for better housing, for better education, for better jobs, for better businesses in our community. Let's build black together. Thank you.
Excuse me one sec. For those who are standing, there are a number of seats if you'd like to sit down. Please.
First off, I want to give honor to God. I'm Elder Oliver. I held a lot of positions, but I'm not going in that right now. I want to let the people know of Sacramento. I'm from Seattle, Washington, that not only Sacramento is hurting, Seattle is hurting in the whole nation. When I saw this on CNN, I cried like a baby because I got 2 kids. And I said, it got to stop. It's got to stop. I'm sick and tired of you guys sitting up here talking about, well, this needs some training. You don't need no training. What you do to make them accountable for what they do. That's the kind of training you need. You need to do right now and put them officer, if you care, and suspend them without pay until this process goes through. That's what you need to do if you really care. Now, one thing I'm upset about is that you can take a white boy who go out here and kill 17 kids, and he comes and he has his day in court, and you have another one who came out here and killed 9 people in the church, and he still have his day in court. But you got a young man out here who had a cell phone, and all he was doing was just looking at his cell phone, because last time I know, I don't never seen a shot come out of a cell phone, okay? So you guys sitting up here talking about you want to do the right thing. Well, let me tell you what you can do to do the right thing. When an officer gets killed, you goes around and you have the flag half-staffed for that whole day. Do the same thing for my man here. Have that flag half-staffed for the whole day if you really care, okay? And let them know that you're going to make a change. And one thing I do, before I take my seat, but my time run out, I want to let you guys realize that it's got to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is that you quit letting these so-called black people who going to say what you want to say, okay, and hear what you want to hear. I wouldn't be talking right now if that young man didn't come down here and act a fool. Because you got up there and said, well, we're going to sit up here for let this man talking, that man talking, then after 5 hours, then at 1 o'clock. Man, I got a plane to catch and something like that. I thank God for the opportunity to talk. And I thank God for coming up there, that man getting on that table, acting a fool, because I can act a fool.
No.
Let's go. I got to go catch a, now I got to go catch a plane. God bless you, Mayor.
Next speaker
with
is
permission,
Ted Hewitt.
with your permission, I'd like to speak. I'm with Elder Oliver. I have to get back to Seattle.
My next speaker is Chet Hewitt, then Trey Borden.
Chet Hewitt,
then
sir,
Betty
is
Williams.
next. You have to.
I'll go then. I flew in on short notice from Seattle. I have to go. All I want to say is, I lived in Detroit when Malice Green got gunned down. I lived in Cincinnati when Tim Thomas got gunned down. Where you're sitting, Mayor Steinberg, that's where Coleman Young sat. And all these faces were black. And those policemen got fired that night.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, my name is Chet Hewitt. I am the President and CEO of the Sierra Health Foundation, and I stand before you tonight in solidarity with my community here inside this room and the many voices who are outside of it. I do a fair amount of public speaking, but I will say I am quite emotional tonight. As a parent of two young black men, 13 years old and 10 years old, I have struggled over the past 8 days trying to help them deal with what they saw on that video. trying to help them believe that I live in a community that holds their life sacred. Trying to reinforce on them the things that comes out of my faith tradition, which suggests that any human being who finds themselves in difficulty is worth offering a hand to. And that no piece of property, no matter who it's owned by, is more valuable than the life of a human being. And you know that if you watch what we saw, that idea is put to its ultimate test. Because my young son, who was 10 years old, said to me, "Well, Dad, that does not seem to be the truth." At 10 years old, he is learning a lesson in life that I had hoped to protect him from altogether. This city and this city council has a choice to make. You cannot be blue. You cannot be political. You cannot stand on the fence. You have to fall on the side of what is right. And you have got to do that now. It's got to be clear. It's got to be unequivocal. The trauma experienced by the Clark family must be addressed. The tragic situation that led to the shooting death of Mr. Stephon Clark has got to be addressed. Can't be covered up, can't be hidden. And the trauma and pain held by this community has got to be addressed as well. This city and this council is at a critical juncture. You can decide to figure out ways to live through this moment, or you can understand that this is a movement. We are not going away. We are not changing our tune. We are not going to ask. We are willing to work with you, but we are going to demand that change in this city happen, and that it happen now.
Speakers Trey Borden, then Betty Williams, then Pastor Joy Johnston.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I thought a lot about kind of what I could add to this conversation because I've worked with almost all of you. I've seen what you guys are capable of when you care. I've seen what you can do when you center the people in the community that need your help, whose help that you know you need to give. And when your back's against the wall and you're having to look at entrenched interests that have gone back to the founding of our nation, when you're looking at a community in crisis, that's when you reveal yourself. That's when you show who you care about, what kind of change you're committed to making. And you're throwing communities away. Our community is in crisis because we're not valuing people as human beings. We're stepping over them to come to this building. We're shooting them in the streets like dogs. We're letting them not get educated. It's the same sickness throughout our entire culture. And I spend a lot of my time trying to come up with, in the gravest of circumstances, when things seem darkest and most horrible, what's the opportunity? Sacramento does have an opportunity to show what the rest of the nation's failing to do. And that's act. That's looking at people whose votes you know you need, whose money you know you need, and say, change or else. Transparency is the least of what we need. We need humanity. We need care. We need moral leadership. We're better than this. And if in Sacramento, where the state's policies are dictated, and these people who work in that building, they live in Sacramento, most of them. We have access to policies that can change the entire state. But we have to start here, and I know that we can do it. And look behind me. There are so many people in this community. Look in this rotunda. Look outside. These are not obstacles. These are people who are willing to get up on a Tuesday and make their voices heard, and who are going to show up when real change is on the table. So recognize this opportunity, and I think that We can get past this. Stefan did not have to die in vain. Thank you.
Williams.
Good evening. My name is Betty Williams. I'm the president of the Greater Sacramento NAACP. First and foremost, I want to give condolences to the Stefan Clark family. My prayers continue to go out to them. I did receive information from the family and the pastor. There has been a change in their funeral arrangements that they wanted me to announce tonight. The funeral will be at the Boss Church in South Sacramento at 11 o'clock instead of the other location. So at the Boss Church at 11 o'clock this Thursday. Sacramento NAACP started 103 years ago for the lynching of black men. There was such a large number of lynching of black men, they had to start an NAACP. And here we are again. We go to the history of this chamber in 1997, where Mr. Venable was shot and killed. I don't know, many of you who were part of City Council, probably your staff may know this story. But he too stood before the SAC PD after calling them for domestic violence. And he was angry with his wife and was kicking his car and kicking out his windows of his own car. The SAC PD showed up. They told him hands up. He put his hands up with his cell phone in his hand and was shot dead. Then we went further into 2007 where we said that SAC PD was profiling us, and we did a profile report in 2007, and it came back. Guess what? Surprise. We were being racially profiled in 2007. Here we are in 2018, 21 years later after the Venable case in 1997, and what has changed 21 years later? Nothing seems to have changed. We can't change the culture through a policy. We need to change the entire culture. As a result, what we're asking as far as the NAACP, you need to do more than what you're doing. We cannot afford another 21 years, Mayor. No. We absolutely don't want to do another 21 years. That's a life sentence for many of us. What we do ask you to do is the right thing as far as we're glad it's not going to be police investigating police, but we need you to look at that foot patrol peace policy. There's other options. This man should not have died for vandalism. He should not be dead today for vandalism. So look at the foot patrol policy. We looked at the one in Oakland, and so there's other options that could have happened. We're also looking at the Bill of Rights, which is a protection of the law enforcement, and we're also like for you to continue to look at the training of officers under the years of 8 years. I've been the NAACP president starting back in 2005 and back again. What I have learned in this trend that officers 8 years and under have a history of shooting black men in this town, in the state of California, leads the states, the United States, in shooting of African American men. We need to change that. And so I'm asking to be part of the solution and changing those practices and implementing policies that will change that. And this is my executive committee members and family members and members of the NAACP, and I thank you for this time.
And next speaker is Pastor Joy Johnston, then Rachel Francoise, then Reverend Eric Donaldson.
To the mayor and to the council, I am honored to be here on tonight, but like so many have already said, my heart is very heavy. I am the president of Sacramento Area Congregations Together. I am proud and loving this city. I am a member of the African American community, and I believe you've already seen that we each have a different way of expressing our grief, but it's real. When I'm in grief, I go to my sacred text. The sacred text of my belief is the Bible. And the first time that there was violent act of murder and spilling of blood, the one who spilt the blood was asked, "Where is your brother?" And that one responded by saying, "I am not my brother's keeper." If we sit here tonight and listen to all of the appeals and the pleas for a change of perspective, and then we go home tonight to our safe and comfortable neighborhoods where you are not in danger, and you sit comfortably and say, "That was a trying meeting, but I'm not at any kind of threat," then what you are saying is, "I am not my brother's keeper." If we continue to do business as usual in this wonderful city that we all love, which is indeed the city of Sacramento, that is called to a higher calling, if we continue to do business as usual, we are saying, "I am not my brother's keeper." In Sacramento area congregations together, we call ourselves to a higher calling that says, "I may not be my brother's keeper, but I am my brother's brother. I am my sister's sister. And if they have no other brother and no other sister but me, they can count on me to stand in the pain and to take action that would change the pain, take action that would silence the suffering, take action that would change that kind of suffering." That's what we expect from you. We expect you to leave this moment with a new lens on, a lens of understanding that we need enforcement that carries out and cares for the neighborhood that they are enforcing. We want you to return to true meaning of public safety, because we don't feel very safe right now. Thank you.
Next speaker is Rachel Francois, Reverend Eric Donaldson, and then Rashid Sadiq.
Just letting you guys know, this is not a gun, it's a phone. But I'm Rachel Francois, and I'm a senior at Pleasant Grove High School. And this is not my first time speaking here, but it's kind of hard for me to speak this time because this issue means so much to me. My heart hurts out of sadness, out of fear, and out of anger. My heart breaks every time I see the unarmed black man news headline. I never even have to finish reading because they all end the same: shot dead by police. It hurts to know we've come so far as black people, but we're still being treated equally as bad as our slave ancestors hundreds of years ago. We plan protests, attend marches, and express our pain, but until the rest of America is ready for change, then nothing gets done, and we have to deal with it. I live in fear, knowing that the next unarmed black man or female in the headlines could be my dad, my uncle, my cousin, or even myself. Growing up, we are trained to always be aware of our surroundings, more than other kids, because one blink too long could be fatal. We proclaim our love to one another before leaving the house or ending a phone call, because that could be the last time we hear or see each other alive. We learn to keep our head down and avoid trouble, because if anyone suspects anything, it could be the end. I don't see much color or people that look like me up here, so I'm just asking you guys to take a moment and put yourself in the shoes of a black mother. They live in fear, or she fears when she finds out she's having a son, because she knows that even if her son does everything right, he still might not make it. Imagine the mother as she prays to God when her son is out one night. Imagine the butterflies in her stomach and her heart sink when she gets a phone call telling her she needs to come identify a body. This is the African American experience. If this can affect me this much at 17, just imagine how much it's affecting the rest of the community. Thank you.
I will keep this brief. It's no accident that I woke up this morning to a news report from the state of Louisiana, where the police officers were exonerated, and it was said that they would not be indicted for the killing of Alton Sterling. In too many situations similar to the one that we are grieving and grappling over right now, we go into our investigations and it is determined that everything was done by the book. Well, if this is what your book looks like, then it's time to do away with the book. I am calling for a complete overhaul of the policies, procedures, protocols, training of our police officers and our police forces in Sacramento. And for an overhaul of the police culture. For not one, but two officers to nearly empty their clip on an unarmed man who only had a cell phone is not only unprofessional, it is downright unacceptable. Mr. Clark didn't even so much as throw his cell phone at the officers. There is no just provocation. Mayor Steinberg. Doesn't matter. Mayor Steinberg.
Sorry, I had to use the restroom.
It's all right. It's all right. Mayor Steinberg.
Reverend.
In your opening statements, you had called for similar overhauls. And you mentioned that it's going to take time. I would like for you, for all of us, to consider the time that was taken away from Stephon Clark, and all of those who have met a similar fate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Rashid Sadiq, did Rashid return? Then James Shelby and Richard Owens.
James?
James Shelby,
Mr. Shelby?
Richard Owens.
I see Mr. Shelby right over there.
Oh.
Mr. Mayor, it's the folks that are outside are trying to come in, so if we can encourage folks that did speak that want to step out and allow people to step in, maybe in increments, it could kind of help the folks that are outside trying to come in.
We'll work on that.
Okay.
Mayor Steinberg, fellow council members, you've heard the pain, you've heard the people outside. I just returned from vacation and I just had to get involved. But I want to look at it from a different perspective. You're going to hear from the young people. The pain, you can sense the pain. But what I want to talk about is the 50 years I've been in Sacramento. There's never been an investment in the black community. From all the training dollars that have come through this town, we have never been a priority. Even the law has changed, and the agency still is not putting money in the community. So we had successful programs that we ran. 300 dropout kids in 3 years graduated. They went on to jobs, community college, and military. We thought that the community would put their arms around us. School district superintendents came and cried, but they couldn't find no resources to help us out. One superintendent took me down to the State Department of Education and told me why we couldn't help. So we built a building. So we go and we work with UC Davis. They put 1,600 employees from Oak Park into the hospital. That's an accomplishment. But when we built the building on Broadway, in Oak Park, Del Paso Heights, we were naive to believe that all of the resources of the county and the city would come, because here's an African-American organization to build a capacity, but the building is still never been completely full. Here's an opportunity to work programs through, but we find no value, I'm assuming because we're a black organization. The dynamics has to change. So, Mr. Mayor, I want to challenge you. When it comes to building a science center for people to come to the community, we find $30 million. So I'm challenging you and the council members to create a campaign to raise $25 million over a 5-year period. The money would go through Sierra Health Foundation, and they would pull the community together and create opportunities in 5 underserved communities. Because what you're hearing tonight is a lack of investment. If these young people had had jobs investment, we would not have the situation we have tonight. We got to do an investment. If not, we're never going to change anything to Sacramento. You have to get together with the county and the city and say, hey, look, no more. We have to focus on a higher priority for the African American community. When we built the stadium downtown, we still don't know how many minority contractors participated. That information still hasn't been shared with the community. We had to fight to get an apprenticeship program started. The apprenticeship program is now working. So somewhere along the line, you've got to identify resources to change this community. And Mr. Mayor, I think you're the right person to do it. You created all the mental health dollars that you created in the state legislature, the counties are sitting on it. So basically, we got to change the paradigm. And I'm focused from economics because you've heard the pain. So I'm challenging you to find a way to get these young men out of the plight that they're in.
Thank you, James. That's great. Nice.
Owens, Ronald Bell, and then Pastor A.K. Thrower.
Mayor Steinberg, members of the City Council, I've been in this battle for a long time, and I just have a question for you because you don't need to hear long speeches at this point. If you all were arrested, every last one of you, and charged with conspiring to ensuring that not one more black man would be shot dead unarmed, would there be enough evidence to convict you?
You say that again, please?
I will.
Please. Say it again, please.
If you were arrested and you were charged with conspiring to ensuring that not one more African-American male, unarmed African-American male, was killed unnecessarily, would there be or will there be enough evidence to convict you? It's a simple moral question. Are you going to do enough? I heard the press conference today at the Attorney General's office. I heard some good things. But I'm going to be honest with you. I reject this whole notion about can we be nonviolent and so forth. They have been nonviolent. These protests have been mostly peaceful. I've been out there with them. The only violence that was committed was by the 2 police officers that shot Stephon Clark. That's where the violence came from. And so we're going to have to step up to the plate. I listened to the Dallas police chief just the other day say that your whole protocol in terms of what you did was all wrong. The use of the helicopter, the lack of the audible portion in the helicopter, the foot patrol, where was the K-9 unit? This young man should still be alive. And I also resent the fact that now we're saying just because we have a black police chief who is a great guy who I support, but it's not about him. I support Chief Hahn. I'm sincere. I was one of the people that helped push to get him hired, but this is not about him. He actually needs us to push you in order to get his job done. In the The last comment I'd like to make is that you've got a problem in this police department. And let me tell you where it's about. You've got what's called a SAC PD underground Facebook page. Have you looked at it lately? They're attacking our leaders, making racist comments. And we've heard that it's also people that are not only current, but also retired police officers in this force. Are we at war? See, this is going to continue until you're able to stop that. Now, I have a lot of faith in Chief Hahn. I think he's the right man. He's got a good heart. But that's not enough. It's not about Chief Hahn. We need you all to keep saying Stephon Clark's name.
Next speaker is Ronald Bell, then Pastor A.K. Thrower, then Anita Ross.
I've heard various numbers thrown out regarding how often people have come before this august body. I'm not so optimistic that anything that will be said tonight will change anything. In fact, I've even called for people when they come here to really just turn their back on you all, because it seems to me that what goes for simply falls on deaf ears, because nothing's changed. Our Constitution states that there are certain inalienable rights that we've been endowed with by our Creator, of which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And like everybody else here tonight, I'm hurting. I got a 22-year-old black son. And I don't want to threaten nobody, but I don't want my son to be shot or killed by a police officer. And my grandmother had a term that I want to share with you all tonight, that you all are barking up the wrong tree if you want change in the city of Sacramento. You hear what I'm saying? I think it was Sister Williams that said 21 years ago, NAACP came before the city council. And here we sit again in 2018 asking for the same justice after they just shot a boy 20 times in his grandparents' backyard. We are barking, we're here tonight barking up the wrong tree. And let me prophesy. Please. Ain't nothing gonna change. We know it. Because they don't have the power to change anything. We need to go after the police. We need to go after the Policeman's Bill of Rights. And we need to go after the policemen's union. The policemen's union are the ones that are paying these officers, these murderers of Stephon Clark. The policemen's Bill of Rights is more important than the rights of our citizens and our children. They can't, they're powerless. Come on, Mayor Steinberg. You know that what I'm saying is true. The policemen's union really carries sway over this whole city council. And I know that, and I just want to say, we're barking up the wrong tree. Thank you.
Pastor A.K. Thrower, Anita Ross, and then Mac Worthy.
Hello, Sacramento City Council. Thank you, community. I'm Pastor A.K. Thrower, and Jesus said that as much as you do it unto one of these, you've done it unto me. And some might say, how can he say that? Well, he's speaking from a spiritual perspective. And most of these issues that we're trying to solve through legislation, city councils, the police, let's monitor the police, let the police monitor themselves. That's like telling a pig, excuse the pun, to clean up his own pig pen. It's not going to happen. Amen. We're going to have someone else doing it. But the whole issue, you guys, is spiritual. It's something that is going on outside of the scene, circumstances of race and color and socioeconomic class, that is not just touching the lives of black Americans, but it's also touching the lives of white Americans. And it's something that's endemic to our culture because we have opted to trust in things like this. I don't have any faith in the police department. None. I don't have any faith in you guys. You guys aren't going to change anything. The only way things are going to change is when you realize there is a power that is greater than you. There's a power greater than you. and you're going to be held accountable to it. It may not be right now, but there will come a time where you're going to be accountable. So when you let politics, when you let money, when you let racism, these are spiritual powers. Racism is a spiritual power. And if, as an African American, you ever been called a nigger when you got pulled over by a policeman? I have. You ever been called boy when they got your license in their hand? I have. That's a spirit. And if we don't take authority over those spirits, they're going to ruin our country. And it's happening now. And listen, these black folks out here, they ain't got to take up guns, because you'll have some white man killing 50 kids at a school next week. You have a white man in Vegas at a country western festival killing. That's called God's justice. See, and if we don't get this stuff settled, our whole country's going to hell.
Pastor.
I'm going to tell you this. So the next time you think it's cool to be a racist, and I commend the black police chief. I commend it. But you know what? It's hard to be a part of any system unless you go along with it.
Pastor.
Yeah, listen, it's hard to make change in the system, even if he wants to, when you got captains and all these other kind of people wanting to hold a standard, because we have to admit that racism
We have
okay,
60 speakers. Thank you.
You act like I'm going to talk for an hour. I'm about to sit down. We have to admit that racism in the police force is endemic. It isn't something that just happened today. Why is that? Because that is a spirit. It's attached to the police force. Unless you deal with that, and the only way to deal with it legally is to start making these police officers. Listen, if they couldn't convict a policeman that killed Joseph Mann, a retarded man, running down the street being chased by police officers and then backed up against a fence and shot 20 times, if they're not convicted, man, come on, please.
The next speaker is Anita Ross, then Mac Worthy, then Malachi Saku Amen.
Hello. My name is LaQuay Felix. I'm just going to take a moment of your time. I've been here since 1 o'clock. I'm a recent graduate of the McGeorge School of Law, and I'm an attorney licensed to practice law here in California. I'm here today to advocate on behalf of a number of people who are angry and upset and confused by the events that have taken place in our community recently and historically. I'm truly no activist myself, but I feel the need to speak upon this matter to offer some definitive and practical ways to address the nature of police-related shootings of unarmed civilians. First, I want to call the attention of Mr. Jay Chenier, who is my representative of my community in Curtis Park, and Mr. Steve Hansen, who is also an alumni from McGeorge, and I call your guys' attention to offer an invitation of open dialogue to discuss some of these suggestions that I do have. I know I've been given a limited amount of time, so I will make my remark as brief and as short as possible. I will preface these suggestions with a story in order to address any preconceived notions any of the members may have regarding this incident. As I mentioned, I've been a resident of California my entire life. I'm an attorney. During law school, I participated in the Federal Defender Clinic as well as the Appellate Advocacy Clinic. I've always been a law-abiding citizen, but I still get nervous when a police officer gets behind me. And when I was 17 years old, I ran from a helicopter light, even though I was abiding all laws. In fact, everybody I was with ran because we were in fear. And with that in mind, I would like to acknowledge that not one person in this room can change what happens when a police officer encounters a civilian and has his gun drawn. However, the people sitting before us have the power to address what happens before and what happens after an incident like this occurs. First, prior to a deadly shooting, the Sacramento community has made great progress with body cameras and de-escalation training. Therefore, I will not address this and commend you all on the efforts thus far. Even more so in this particular case, I would like to commend the police chief for referring this case to the Office of Attorney General for an objective and independent review. Next, we all can address what happens when, despite implemented prevention mechanisms, an unarmed civilian is killed at the hands of the person entrusted to provide authority to protect. Accountability. As a student of the law, I've explored numerous issues with initial investigation process with the district attorney, and I'm sad that they're not here, but in the evidence procedures used during trial of a criminal defendant or a criminal defendant police officer. In fact, I've successfully appealed the Eastern District of California and had a criminal conviction overturned on the improper uses of the Pitch's motion. I'm going to skip.
Wrap it up, please.
We all know that there's major problems with the investigation procedures by Sacramento District Attorney, but I'll speak to one thing in particular that has continued having police officers get off on the conviction.
Wrap up, please. Okay,
I'm sorry, but it's a lot. The most important thing is the district attorney pledges to adhere to Pitch's motion procedures described in the evidence codes when reviewing personnel files of the officer involved. This is a misplaced adherence to the law. Pitch's motion is designed for a criminal defendant to discover the personnel of a police officer when they contest the circumstances surrounding their arrest. Here, there is no criminal defendant attempting to request personnel files. Instead, the district attorney will be requesting the personnel files. In California Penal Code 832.7 specifically states that the Pitch's procedures are not applicable to investigations or proceedings concerning the conduct of officers conducted by the district attorney's office. This is a major problem considering the spike of deaths of unarmed black civilians. A district attorney should automatically...
I need you to wrap it up, please.
A district attorney should automatically be seeking the personnel file of a police officer who's involved in a shooting resulting in the death of an unarmed person. This is important because the personnel file of an officer who commits this type of crime can often and does reveal a pattern of discriminatory or prejudicial behavior toward other civilians of a similar demographic. Given the broad discretion granted in the Penal Code, it's irresponsible for our district attorney to limit themselves by way of a procedure that they are statutorily exempted from adhering to. And I could go on, but I know you want me to wrap it up. I just think that the Pitch's procedures that the district attorney have dedicated themselves to adhering to are not, they're exempted from. So it's stopping convictions from happening, and that's the main problem.
And then Malachi Siku Amen.
Hi, I'm Anita Ross, founder of grassroots organization Women for Equality, but I am also here, most importantly, as the mother of 3 black children. They are on spring break this week, and I have been doing my best to hold myself together to make sure that they don't get scared and afraid, like how I'm feeling. I've been toggling between extreme anger and complete heartbrokenness. I refuse to sit idly by while our city or our nation tries to give my son any other message than that he is worthy, than that he is exquisite, and that he gets to live. And that's why I'm here. So on Thursday, I participated in the earlier parts of the protest, and I wish that I could have stayed for the rest, but I had to pick up my children. What I learned from that night is leadership. I saw true leadership step into play that evening. We disrupted the comfort of those who are oblivious to the issues at hand. And we hit people where it hurt. Unfortunately, it hurt them by not being able to get into a basketball game or being a little bit late due to traffic. But let me just say, Stephon Clark will never, ever be late to pick up his children again. He will never, ever be able to take them to a Sacramento Kings game. Never. And we have an opportunity. Because of that protest on Thursday, we have sparked national attention. And we have a unique opportunity. You all have a unique opportunity to step out of your official capacity and step into leadership. I understand that it is not necessarily popular to listen to people of color, to black people. I understand that even our president says that it's not popular to listen to people of color. But you have an opportunity tonight to sleep and think this over and go the unpopular route, because the community knows the answers. We know best what we need. Please take this opportunity to step into your next level and listen and create change in Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross.
Speaker is Mac Worthy, then Malachi Siku Amen, and then Talise Summerfield. Mac Worthy?
Are you Mac Worthy?
Okay. Go for it. Mac Worthy. Move on to the next one.
And if you could queue up or come toward the front of the room when I call your name, I'd appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Mayor. People,
don't be afraid of what you heard here, and don't be leery of what you heard here about nothing. Black people have no leadership. That's your problem. You are not leading nowhere there. I'm calling for your resignation, Hanson and Jason there, and Clark. Call for y'all's resignation. When you told the people to Attorney General oversee the investigation, that was wrong. No grass. Only the federal government oversees. This city is in trouble, plus the state. If this diocese can ignore federal law, why would that boy can't ignore command of the police department? Here is where your problem. Accountability has a block within this charter, and it takes a ballot to move it. You cannot have accountability over with the investigation clause subpoena in this city. Furthermore, the state of California have a law to protect the cop. You can't stand up in a court in this state and tell the judge to give him more time. That's what you got to be changed. Don't Trump people coming to town. People, here is on the agenda now. Work with the Attorney General and get rid of these people because it's a felony for them to lie as they're lying. You got to respect federal law. If you didn't have federal law, your black attorney couldn't even come to California. And you going to ignore your Constitution for some garbage? You got to understand it takes years. I had relatives to get shot in the police, killed. First blacks went on the force. Training. How can you train 40 hours a policeman to recognize a mental illness when a doctor go to school 8 years? And then he has to test to classify the mental ill. That was $900,000 abuse. That's what it was. It was abuse. Brad stick to the chief. Give nothing to the Attorney General because Donald Trump going to...
Your time's up, Mac. Go ahead.
My next speaker is Malachi Saku Amen, Talise Summerfield, and then Deborah Cummings.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Malachi Amen, founder of the California Urban Partnership and a longtime resident of the city. I personally know the majority of you, have love for all of you, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I'm sick and tired of my people getting killed and hurt, and I have got some things that need to be said. Once again, the timely intersection of racialized law enforcement, police brutality, the slave catcher tradition, extreme black family trauma, generational poverty, destabilized neighborhoods, and racialized wealth gaps bring us here to demand action. The action we demand is that the city we love stop killing us. Stop ignoring the fact that we have a problem with race, equity, and inclusion throughout our city government. And stop the games that leave black people in poverty. Many of us can personally appreciate the value of an independent investigation into the killing of Stephon Clark and the calls for peace, but be clear. We have always been the first ones to cry out for peace, and we will not fall asleep in this election year and forget about justice. We deserve to live free in these streets, and we have earned a repair and a path to real economic security. We're wide awake and see that every time this city refuses to adopt a police commission, citizens police commission with teeth, that we're being killed. Every time this city brings new industry, invests in major amenities and infrastructure, and makes equity the last priority, this city is killing us. And we demand that equity becomes a priority, and we demand justice for Stephon Clark.
East Summerfield, Deborah Cummings, and then Conrad Trump.
Hi, peace. City Council of Sacramento. My name is Talise Summerfield. I am a student at UC Berkeley, born and raised in Sacramento, California, though. I personally know you, Daryl, and I don't have anything against you. This is not personal to any of you, right? But the narrative is bigger than us, than our lifetime. If we look at our history, we can tell that the function of the police was to brutalize, was to captivate, was to enslave, was to kill black people. So to say that they're not doing their job by doing that is to say that they're not, their function is obsolete, which it is, right? They are doing their job. They are doing their job. Y'all are doing your job. This is what y'all are wearing that badge for. This is what the badge stands for, right? So what I'm calling for is a complete abolition of that. Complete abolition. We need it. Sacramento has a unique opportunity to be a framework for the United States and for the world. We can lead. We have that. We have that potential to lead, but we have to take it. We have to take that opportunity, right? So that's one thing I want to talk about. Second thing I want to talk about is the fact that the murder of Stephon Clark, say his name. The murder of Stephon Clark is personal. This is not something for the media. This is not this was not intentional to trigger a movement. This is personal. His family is mourning. We are mourning. We are crying. We feel this personally. And that's something that you all should remember while you deliberate on how you're going to fix this problem or how we're going to address this problem in the future, how we're going to move forward, is that this is personal. Imagine you, Rick Jennings, Larry Carr, I know y'all feel this. Because you are black. You have, regardless of what chair you sit in right now, you have this experience. So you know that if you're walking down the street, if you're in your the backyard of your grandmother, right, this sacred space, you understand how important it is to feel safe. You understand the importance of that. So protect that. Act like it's personal. Last thing, those people out there, the community, they're not gonna stop. And y'all know that. They're not gonna stop. This isn't gonna stop. We're not gonna let his name die. I came all the way from the Bay Area, all the way from Berkeley. I left early just so that I could be here in front of y'all today, right?
Elise,
it's not gonna stop.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next speaker is Deborah Cummings. Deborah Cummings, Conrad Crump, Kevin Daniel.
Good evening, everybody, Mayor, City Councilman. I am standing before you today because I represent Del Paso Heights, District 2, and it bothers me that I am standing here with no representation for my district councilman. What I am expressing to you today is my brother was murdered in 1996. My mother took up on this fight to make sure that every mother would get decent counseling after their children are gunned down in the streets. We have a lot of Stephon Clarks. But what we don't have is our city councilmen making sure that our mothers and our siblings get that counseling when tragedy happens. I have came before you several times. My job starts after 5:00 p.m., not 9 to 5. I am out there with what you see outside. I deal with that daily. Now, I don't know if any of your children have to deal with this daily, but where I come from and where I live, I have a city councilman that is not here to speak to me and my community. Do you understand what that means? I have what you call skin in the game. You see me? I am black. My mother is black. My father was black. My mother had not one resource, not one follow-up from anyone. I had to watch my mom die in my home because my brother was shot. My damn councilman is not here today. How is that?
Deborah?
Who am I supposed to go back to? I am tired, Mayor. My family is tired. My community is tired. We need what we need, and that's accountability. I ain't even starting on the tea lights that we didn't get, and another one of our community members is dead. But I'm going to stay on point, and I'm going to get out there with the community, because like I said, my job starts after 5.
Thank you.
Conrad Crump, Kevin McDaniel, and then James Jefferson.
I'm Conrad Crump, and I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I'm not here actually as a former friend of legislative staff. Daryl, Eric ran out. I don't know where he's at. Jay, I seen you with my grandma this weekend, cutting the ribbon, dedicating Oak Park to my grandfather. But I'm not here wearing that hat. I'm not here to speak to you as a UC Berkeley graduate for that which I am. Go Bears. I'm not here to speak to you as a philanthropist who works in philanthropy. I'm actually here to speak to you as a concerned citizen. I need you to hear me. You need to hear the voice of the people out there that know their oppressors best. So here it is. We know that we as black people in California and in the United States of America live under oppression due to a policing style called the Watchman policing style, which is a style that gives police officers tons of discretion where he or she can decide to choke a man for jaywalking. He or she can decide to shoot a man in his own grandparents' backyard holding a cell phone. But we also know that in predominantly white areas where the white folks live, policing is operated under a different system, a legalistic system, which has to go by the book in the way in which they uphold the law and the way in which they treat their citizens. It's not the same. You know it, we know it, everybody knows it. I heard somebody say Sacramento stands strong, and I'm looking at each and every one of you in the eye. This right here on my chest and these right here represent voters. All these people right here represent voters. They represent your constituency. You need to hear them. They're telling you what is wrong in their communities. Listen to them, and I'm not going to go over time. I'm just going to say this. What constitutes our problems and ultimately relates to our issues is the undergirding element of fear. Fear on both sides. Fear because I'm a black man and I got twisties in my hair. Fear because I'm a little darker shaded complected than someone else. Fear because you think I'm a thug. You don't know I have children. You don't know I've worked over a decade in the legislature. You don't know that I've worked and written grants for kids in my community in all of your districts. In all of your districts. So I'm not even pleading with you. I'm telling you, beware of the voters. They're coming for you. Listen to your constituency, or you will be on the outside wishing that you could be running again for something.
Kevin Daniel, James Jefferson, and then Pastor Daryl Robinson.
Hello, my name is Kevin Daniel. I work for the Greater Sacramento Urban League. And heard some pretty powerful things here today. I just want to make two small points. And the first thing I want to talk about accountability, police accountability. It's okay to hold our trained professionals accountable. In our society, we hold our children accountable. We even try our children as adults when they do wrong. So it's okay to hold our police officers accountable. It's okay. As parents, we know that when we hold our children accountable, they tend to do better. We even have sayings that say that even ignorance is not an excuse when it comes to accountability. So it's okay to hold our law enforcement accountable. We have to change some things because they have to be held accountable. Because when you hold people accountable, they tend to do a little bit better. Thing number one. Number two is, when all the dust settles, there is a bigger picture. And we've heard it today. Our black community has been assaulted when it comes to education, incarceration, lack of housing, poor health, low unemployment. So we have to address these issues. We have to, at some point, to begin to invest in our black communities. We have to build up our black communities. And the key is when we build them up, don't move us out. Gentrification, it happens. We got to build up our communities. We got to move up as black people. And the city has to make an investment into our black communities. Because I promise you this, a stronger black community makes for a stronger Sacramento. Thank you.
That's right. James Jefferson, Pastor Daryl Robinson, and then Reverend Shane Harris.
Well, it's not James Jefferson, it's Jamar Jefferson, but you was close. Okay. How you doing? I'm Jamar Jefferson. I am a man that was born in Texas. My father has been on death row, and recently the Supreme Court overturned his conviction because of prosecutorial misconduct. Basically, the district attorney paid another black man $200, and another one he got a deal to lie on my father. But my father still rots in the prison. So I had it very hard. Guns put to my head, beat by police. That's the reason I left Texas. Well, what I'm really concerned with, my heart goes out to the Clark family. What happens if they don't stop? Will the city stand down? All the assault rifles that the city have, are y'all gonna turn them on children? And there may be one or two out there. I may actually be out there, and I'm not, I don't have a weapon on me. Will the city stand down? The city owns AR-15s, I believe, and stockpiles of weapons as well. Are they going to turn them on the citizens? Children. That is what we're talking about here. I mean, I was just in San Francisco, and the people said this is a powder keg ready to explode. It's hurtful. I'm pleading with the two officers to accept responsibility for bad judgment. That's what it was. And accept accountability for peace sake. Because we don't want a civil unrest or violence out here in the streets, because that's what's going to happen. And what happened if they turn their hands on you? Not me, right? Because I understand violence begets violence, but when will we actually make policy for peace? And as far as our black leadership, I'm sorry. If you're going to build black, let's first start with God and unifying the churches. We shouldn't have to go to different churches. We need to be praying to God, if anything, and to correct our ways as well. And then we need to start loving our own. We ain't praying, we moving. Well, once again, though, if you move and we have no military training, right?
Jefferson, Mr. Jefferson, your time is up, sir. Thank you. Next speaker.
Hold on,
Next
did you
speaker.
stop anybody
Your
else?
time
Hold
is
on,
up.
You ain't gonna talk to me like that. You didn't stop anybody else.
Oh, we have to.
Don't be rude.
We have 100 speakers. Please wrap up.
I understand that, but don't be rude to me like that.
Please wrap up. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Next speaker is Pastor Darrell Robson, then Reverend Shane Harris, then Darrell Roberts and Elijah Wallace.
Please call the witnesses.
Pastor Darrell Robson, Reverend Shane Harris, and then Darrell Roberts and Elijah Wallace. Is Pastor Darrell Robson here? Pastor Shane Harris?
Hello, Mayor and City Council. I wanted to be here because it was important. I was called in late last Wednesday by the family of Stephon Clark. When they asked me to come in earlier than I was projected, with Attorney Ben Crump, I got in on Friday night. It is very important what the community is saying here today, as I represent the National Action Network, which is here to uplift and stand with the community, particularly our community here in Sacramento. I want to be very clear. When I was 8 years old, I lost my father due to cancer of the liver, not to a police shooting. When I was 16, I lost my mother due to a drug overdose, not a police shooting. But when I was standing and sitting in the family's house all weekend as we had been planning the funeral, I looked at those kids and I thought, those kids will never get to see their parents again. And it's because two police officers who obviously didn't have enough training nor enough common sense to understand that they ought to be able to go home to their parents and their parents should be able to welcome him back. Stephon Clark should be here today. But because of misconduct, we now have to stand here without Stephon. All over the country, we've had to stand without Michael Brown and Trayvon and Alfred Alongo in San Diego. Enough is enough. And we want you to know that not only are activists in Sacramento watching you, Mayor Steinberg, but this whole nation is watching you. And we come to stand not only with the family of Stephon Clark, but with the underground activists, those out there who should be in here. There's enough seats in here for everybody.
Wrap up, please. You can wrap it up, please. Thank you.
At 11 a.m., when we gather at the Boss Church here in Sacramento, we will have to lay Stephon before us, and he will not be here with his children. But something must be done in Stephon's name, and we stand with those who are on the ground here to ensure that there is change in this city, this county, and this nation, because we are tired of losing black and brown people due to police officers.
Wrap it up,
who
please.
Clearly have no training.
Wrap up, please.
And clearly have no conduct.
You can wrap it up,
We stand
please.
with everyone. And we want it to be known that the nation's eyes are watching you, and they will continue to watch you in how you handle this situation.
Thank you. Please wrap it up.
Thank you.
Next speakers, Darrell Roberts and Elijah Wallace, then Michelle Belton and Regina Brink.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Elijah Wallace, and I am a representation of Roberts Family Development Center. I'm 13 years old, and I am currently an 8th grader at Martin Luther King Technology Academy. Today, I'm here to inform you guys on how I feel police are treating us in today's society. Police are treating us black men wrong for the wrong reasons. And as a young black man, I'm not scared to stand up and speak on what's going on in our society. Black men should all take a stand and stop all this police brutality, because I'm tired of seeing another African-American man being shot and killed and his family having to go through this pain. So I want to take a stand for my black men, because it's only fair we get treated equally and have a chance of life. I also feel like we shouldn't be afraid when a police officer approaches us, because showing them fear won't make things better. But to be brave and showing them that you did nothing wrong will help stand up for yourself and show no fear. I'm also tired of black men being profiled and another African-American people being profiled. Wait, my bad. To be the bigger person for another person's actions. We have a reason to be upset, because this happens almost every day that an African-American person is getting killed in the streets or just walking home, being harassed by a policeman. I don't think it's fair. I feel like we should come together and make sure this violence stops.
That's right!
Thank you.
From a 13-year-old to a 59-year-old. If I'm telling you that he's scared of police, and I'm telling you I have a valid driver's license, a registered car, and insurance, and when an officer drives behind me, Mayor Steinberg and member of the council, I become apprehensive. My hand tightens on the wheel. And that it happens because we have been trained to be suspect of officers. We're going to have to address that as a city. We're going to have to talk about the real conversations. We'll have to move aside the traditional ways we do things. We talked about a police commission some years ago. We came back with a watered-down version of something that we really thought was change things. It's time for us to do things that will really change this city. I ask you not only tonight, but for the future, to look out for 13-year-olds and 59-year-olds who care about our city.
Thank you, Darrell. If it is possible, everyone who's standing, I would ask you to please take a seat, because we're trying to see how many seats are available so that we can... Well, I understand. You can. That's okay. I'm just asking if you're willing to take a seat. It will help us then bring more people into the chambers. Okay. Thank you.
Next speaker is Michelle Belton, Regina Brink, and then Linda Cantaruthi. Michelle Belton. Michelle Belton. Regina Brink. Is Regina Brink here?
Regina Brink.
Linda Cantaruthi. Linda? No? Allegra Taylor? Thank you. And if you'd state your name. Regina, thank you.
The microphones are right in front of you.
Okay. I hope you can hear me.
Want to use the bottom microphones? Is that easier?
Would that be easier to use that mic?
Yep.
Do we have a handheld as well?
Okay. We don't. The
We do
bottom
not.
are
So the bottom
live.
one right there. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know many of you on the city council. First, I am grieving as well. My daughter went to school with Stefan. They called him Zoe, actually. And I know him personally because I was very involved in the school, as you all know who know me. I am here to say that this is not about civil rights. It's about human rights. And I'm totally blind. I don't know who's white, who's black, or whatever in this room. But I want to believe that all of us are human in this room. And if you are human, come with me and think, when I hear the helicopters outside my door, outside, I can barely understand what they say, first of all. And then if none of my kids are home and I have 3 boys who appear African American, I have a girl who appears African American as well. She gets off work at 10 or 10:30 at night, every night, because she closes. And she works downtown here. And she says that she's profiled by the police. She's a girl leaving work. She's 23 years old. And when I hear the helicopter, I'm telling you that I am terrified if I don't know where each one of my children are. Because I know that even though I don't see who's black or white, everybody else sees who's black and white, and they act accordingly, and they don't act as though black people are human too. And I know I have been embraced by all communities. They have helped me, everybody. White people too. And so I know there are human beings in this room. And I want you to please take a minute when you go home and close your eyes and imagine being terrified all the time that your children will not make it home alive. And then you'll know why the people are out here and begging you. Not begging, demanding. Demanding.
Thank you.
Demanding.
Thank you.
Demanding that you implement the change. There was a blueprint. We had community policing. We had everything here, and it was rejected, wrongly so. So all I'm saying is learn from your mistake. And Jay Chenier, you're my representative. I know you're a human being. I know you're a good person. I just want you to show it in your actions now. Thank you.
Yes. Next speaker is Allegra Taylor, Alicia Lewis, and then Lauren Pryor.
Wait, you didn't get to speak.
You didn't call for me.
Allegra? Linda Controlelli.
Linda was called. Come on up.
Linda.
Well,
I didn't hear it right here.
Go ahead, Linda.
You're welcome to speak.
Linda?
I'm speaking to the public.
No, Linda. No. No. No, Linda, you have to speak to the city council.
3 years ago, my son was shot. I was not able to be strong enough to be right here. I was right there. These activists came and they spoke for me. Okay. I, as a mother, in less than 24 hours' time, asked the cops to help me with my son who was in psychosis for days. The first time they told me, he's grown, he can do whatever he wants to, and it's my fault. I'm his mother because I kept him at the house because he's sick. If he had a brain tumor, I would not kick him out. Because he has mental health issues and was on psychosis, I'm not kicking him out either. He's a sick person. The second time I asked them to help me with my son who was in psychosis was at the park across the street. This is why they don't want you to hear what I'm saying. I stopped. There were Lots of going on in the park because they already had an incident. So to make a long story short, I stopped, asked for help. They called my son over, shot him dead within 5. What? They shot him. I'm sorry, he's not dead. They shot him. They opened fire, emptied a gun on him, rapid fire. He was shot here, 3 kill shots. Here, here, here. Another shot here, back here. He was left with a bullet for over a year and a half. While he was institutionalized for mental health, that was when they took the bullet out. This is why I'm not facing them. You know what they did? They investigated. They investigated by clearing themselves, saying that I planned this. What the hell? You know what now? Don't let them do with Stefan like they did with me. See this carpet? They lifted it, they shoved it under the carpet. Now, I would like to turn to them. Well, I was sitting in the back when I noticed one person isn't here tonight. But 3 years ago, there were 3 people here. They were very rude, very disrespectful. And you know what? 2 of them are left. I want ASS Hole Hanson gone. Gone. I want Ashby gone.
No. Then vote. Then that's it.
I'm telling.
No. That's not what we do in this chamber. No, I don't care. Wait a minute here. If you want to vote somebody out of office, exercise your right to do so by voting. Next speaker, please. Call the name.
And next speaker is Allegra Taylor.
Good. Next speaker, please. My next speaker is Allegra Taylor. Allegra Taylor. Lauren Pryor and Allegra Taylor, please come up.
The next speakers, Allegra Taylor, Alicia Lewis, and then Lauren Pryor.
Ms. Taylor.
Mayor, City Council members, I stand before you today on behalf of a 94-year-old woman who waited for her son to come home from prison in a system that she thought was broken. But I also stand before you today to say that we are not ignorant to the devices that are being used against us and our people. We understand that the system that's in place was designed to keep us under, to oppress us, to lock us up, to not educate us, and to make sure that you get rid of us. With that said, from the elementary school yards to the high schools, we are the lowest performing group, but you give us nothing. You go to our hoods, you take away whatever is there to assist us to get ahead, like closing down the county office in the Fruit Ridge Manor area, which was used often by young adults trying to get a job. Then you lock us up and you throw away the key. So we fight on every level. Like I said, we're not ignorant to the devices that's being used from us, against us. We understand wickedness in high places. But we need to put you on notice today to say this. We have taken up the mantle of our ancestors. Like we told Elk Grove Unified School District, when black mamas start saying we tired, when we start verbalizing it out of our mouth, We are telling you we tired. When we start saying it, we mean it. And when we mean it, we do something about it. And what we're going to do about it, you need to know. We will not stop in the city of Sacramento until we are treated with the same respect as the average white person. One more thing. One more thing. Just one more thing. When we shut down the Kings game, the message we were trying to deliver is this. You will no longer be able to go around the next day and go on with business as usual when you're killing our kids.
No? Alicia Lewis, Laureen Pryor, then Brian Sapp.
Sorry, couldn't hear you back there.
That's okay.
Alicia Lewis. I'm here. I mean, I know some of you from having been your colleague, worked for some of you, and I live in District 1. And I'm here today, though, as a Latina mom. At the end of the day, my kids are brown, and they're walking through in a district, when we talk about a difference in policing, in a district that does get different policing. And it's real. Until we see kids who look like my son or who are black and they're playing together, and then all of a sudden we watch the officers become a little bit quick in their pace. And they are responding and they are showing up and they're interrogating our boys. And that's what's happening even in every aspect you think of a district. You're like, we put all this effort into it. We think we're in this safe space, that it's somehow we've managed to not be somehow targeted. At the end of the day, my boy's still brown. That's still what's happening. And at some point, when are we going to get that absolute change that needs? We talk about voting. I vote. I've walked for your districts. I've fundraised for you. We've done everything to ask. I've organized, get my friends to be out there, my family. But at some point, this is the pain. This is what's happening. And, I mean, the woman who's here and you're telling her to vote, we're there. But what does that matter at the end of the day if you're not listening? So at some point, you know what? We're just not going to walk for you. We're not going to be there for you, and we're sure as heck aren't going to vote for you.
That's right.
Laureen Pryor, Brian Sapp, and then Rodney Davis.
Good evening. My name is Laureen Pryor, and I'm the president of Black Youth Leadership Project, and we are actively fighting this mindset when it comes to our kids in these school districts. Our kids are being tracked on that school-to-prison pipeline, and because we haven't addressed this as the adults, our kids are suffering. I understand. I'm here in solidarity with the groups, the warriors on the front lines. Black Lives Matter Sacramento, Voice of the Youth, and Sacramento Act. You know, when we were watching the Black Panther, there was a line in there that struck me. It said, "It is hard for a good man to be king." Chief Hunt is a good man, but his job is hard. And I understand that policing is a difficult job, but people are signing up for that. And so when you sign up for it, you can't come to the community and say you were scared or in fear of your life. "20 shots. 20 shots. No waiting to find out all the facts, no waiting for those facts to come in. No calls for the officers to remain calm while the investigation was taking place. No waiting to determine if Stephon Clark was even actually the person you were looking for. 20 shots. It's unacceptable, it's unconscionable, but most importantly, it's inhumane. How can you protect what you fear? I stand with the community, and most importantly, I stand with the Clark family, and I'm calling for justice, not an appearance of justice, but actual justice. Justice for Stephon Clark.
Next speaker is Brian Sapp, then Rodney Davis, and then Terry Robinson. Brian Sapp. Brian Sapp, Rodney Davis, Terry Robinson, and then Jeffrey Lindsay. Is Brian here? No. Rodney Davis? Mr. Davis?
And Mr. Davis coming?
After Mr. Davis is Terry Robinson, then Jeffrey Lindsay, and then Chris Riefsel.
Good evening. I'm really not sure what to say. It seems to me that everything that needs to be expressed has already been said to you. But I will say this. You know, what came to mind was a statement that Eric Holder made, somebody who was the top cop in the country during the Obama generation, during the Obama administration. He made a comment. He said, America has to eventually have a real discussion about race. And even though I do believe that this is a human rights issue, it's very much a racial issue as well. You know, at the beginning, the commencement of this meeting, you know, we were all asked to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. And we all know those statements, justice and liberty for all. Well, even though it's also well known that throughout the country, some people associate the police, or what they advocate is that they're supposed to protect and serve the citizens of the community. Well, this isn't what is happening here. And what everybody is really what we are trying to say to you, act as though this was your son who was killed. If it was your son that was killed, what efforts would you make to try to bring about change? The people are obviously concerned and in an uproar. The thing of it is, this was an unjustifiable, and if you look at the video, it's like it's an assassination. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it looks like a hit. It looks like a murder. And so our children are continued to be targeted. We're always being racially profiled to be murdered. And this issue has to be addressed. And you see I don't know if you guys can see what's really behind all of this and what's coming. But what we're demanding from you is that you look at this as though it was one of your sons that was killed. And lastly, I'm going to say this. This is an economic issue as well. Case in point, I have a BS in biochemistry. I can't even get a job. And that's not just, imagine someone that doesn't even have that background. These are the disparities that we continue over and over again to face, and nobody will really help us.
Next speaker is Terry Robinson, Jeffrey Lindsay, and then Chris Riefsel.
Mayor Steinberg, members of the council, my name is Terry Robinson. I'm an attorney. I was born and raised here. I'm a daughter of the soil. I don't live here anymore, but my brother does, my nephew does, my great-nephews do. African Americans live in this nation as second-class citizens because we fear interactions with the police and we fear being accidentally killed because a police officer has a so-called reasonable belief that they're in danger because of the color of our skin. I don't have a lot to offer except an analysis of the problem and some solutions. And you're not going to like either of them. In my view, the problem is twofold, and it goes to the paradigm of the use of lethal force and the justifications for it. Police officers, when there is a choice between defending themselves or not shooting somebody who they don't know is armed, they get to err on the side of saving themselves, even though part of their job is to put their life on the line. So the police officer's life is always valued more than the suspect, whether you know they're armed or not. The second problem is the reasonable belief standard. The standard that if an officer has a reasonable belief that they are in imminent danger of death or serious bodily harm, they can discharge their firearm. The problem with reasonable belief is that reasonable belief can be the function of unconscious racial bias. We all have them. And you can go on the internet and Google this. There's research on unconscious racial bias. So here's what I propose. Reasonable belief should no longer be the standard for a police officer to discharge his weapon. If this were, unless he sees a weapon, he should not be able to discharge his weapon. His life should not be higher or more valuable than that of a citizen. It's a radical concept. Second, the police assume the risk of life or losing their life as part of their job. The citizens do not. We don't assume that risk, and we shouldn't have to because someone has an erroneous, reasonable belief that you are armed, which could be based on unconscious racial bias. So here are 6 solutions. I will enter my remarks in the record. First, justification for the use of deadly force should only be allowed if an officer sees a gun or knows that the person has a gun. If there is any doubt, that doubt needs to be resolved in favor of the citizen, not the officer. Second, turning off or muting a police body camera before, during, or after.
Please let her let the
Turning
speaker
off
finish.
or muting
Please.
a police body camera before, during, or after a pursuit of a suspect is evidence tampering. It should be a fireable offense. A fireable offense. 3, every police officer should be required to take an implicit association test, which is available for free on the Project Implicit website, to test for unconscious racial and other biases that may affect their judgment in a deadly force situation. The results of those tests shall be revealed to the officer and placed in their personnel files. 4, pending conclusion of an investigation of an officer shooting a suspect, the suspect's arrest and conviction record shall not be made public so as not to bias the investigation or a jury pool in a civil proceeding against the department. 5, there shall be no confidential settlements of wrongful death or civil rights cases involving officer-involved fatal shootings of suspects. The facts from any wrongful death or civil rights case should be laid bare to the public to hold the police department accountable. And then finally, police shootings of suspects shall be investigated by an independent body whose composition shall be a majority of non-law enforcement citizens. I would urge you to get together with Black Lives Matter, with NAACP, and all affected civil rights organizations to change the thinking that a police officer's life gets to be more valuable than that of a citizen's. And I'd like my remarks entered in the record.
I want to thank you for being specific. Appreciate that. Please bring it forward.
Our next speaker is Jeffrey Lindsay, Chris Reefsel, and then Terrell Wilson. Jeffrey Lindsay?
Yeah, that's me. Okay, so I would like to say to the Clark family, my deepest sympathies. I'm a single father. I've been in Sacramento, California for 38 years, so all my life. California, Sacramento is my home. I wouldn't choose any other city in California. I wouldn't choose any other state to live in but California. With all the shootings that has happened throughout the years in this nation, they haven't hit home to me. The 2016 incident that happened was very tumultuous. Then we come into this incident that happened right down the street from areas that I lived in. I've lived in Oak Park, I lived in Meadowview, I lived in Elder Creek, I live now in Natomas. So I've lived everywhere. Rockland, Roseville, that's where I met Daniel, the chief of police at the time. So I would like to say, the young lady just came up and she gave you that declaration about things to change. We are the stage. California is the stage of the nation. We are basically Hollywood. Whatever we do, they will listen. It's always like that. They follow us. They come to us. I have family members and people in law enforcement to this day. And they have shared some things with me about how they have to go to training in other states to police and help out. So I know that we can make a change here. And with this and everything that's going on, I have sons. I'm black myself. I have had interaction with police since I was 22 years old. And there's been issues where it was unconstitutional and they shouldn't even harass me, but they did. I never seen race. Our family here in California, in Sacramento, we are a family. We are here together. We've always been a unit. It doesn't make sense about all this division that's going on right now. We are here. I'm here. I love you guys, everyone in this audience, the Clark family, Stephon Clark, we love you.
Thank you.
Refsell.
My name is Chris Refsell, and I am here to speak on behalf of my friend and sister, Vicki Davis. In August of 2017, we sent a certified letter which was intercepted. And in the letter, we said that since 2011, we have noticed an increase of police activity in her Oak Park home, and my Safe Haven home. Increased police activity in the community, and we added that this activity often involved caravans of police vehicles in pursuit of African American males at 3 a.m. in the morning. We've provided traffic reports showing patterns of pursuits for minor traffic violations that were upgraded to more serious offenses. We also included pictures showing excessive use of force to stop alleged suspects, with the force resulting in extensive damage into her home and my Safe Haven on 3 separate occasions. In essence, we said we were concerned that within our department, with your department, there is a human menace, which if not checked quickly, will continue doing irreparable harm to African American citizens, like the harm done to Stephon Clark family.
Thank you.
And a more personal note for me in watching the proceedings of this evening, Mayor, to hear all the procedural investigative things that you wanted to say first was absolutely wrong, in my opinion. I have been a part of listening to standard operating procedures in my work as a customer service rep for years. And I have read words on pages that mean absolutely nothing if you do not stand behind them.
Yes.
So, if you want to spend time with policy and procedure, then back it up, or don't write or change anything and suffer consequences.
Thank you, ma'am.
I know where I came from.
We have some more
A
speakers.
safe,
We have many more speakers
white,
here, ma'am.
Unpoliced area. And I have come to a reality that life is not that way. I have watched you, and I have been imagining your homes where you are now. I don't know where you came from, but I bet now you don't have to worry about anything.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, and I hope you let me speak, because this is like 4 minutes in reality.
Excuse me? Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
To dovetail what my sister has
Go ahead,
said here.
of course.
Okay. It's not okay to live in the Oak Park community for 30 years and to watch the changes that have occurred since 2011. It's not okay for me to send a letter as an African American citizen to the police chief Han, and that letter be intercepted and passed on to someone else, and then someone else, and then another person who's on pregnancy leave who calls me and says she got it because she used to work in internal affairs. It is not okay for me to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning and be surrounded by 15 police officers standing in my yard after damage.
I've had that happen too.
After damage.
Right behind my tree in my front yard.
And laughing and talking for police cars to come through the wall of my home. It's not okay. And yet, we're supposed to live like this is normal?
Our next speaker is Terrell Wilson, then Ishmael Abdul Hakul, and our next speaker is Ishmael Abdul, then Ishmael Imran, and then Laquay Felix.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ishmael Abdul Haq. I'd like to start off by saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of God, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. I'd like to extend my salutations to the audience and distinguished guests and members from different faculties and churches and organizations, as well as the City Council and Mayor. I greet you in the most ancient of greetings and honorable greetings. Assalamu alaikum. May God's peace be upon you all. You know, this situation with the brother Stephen Clark, you know, let me gather myself for a second, because I am Stephen Clark. I am him. Every time the police come to my area, which is the Del Paso Heights area, every time they come, they arrest me. Now, I got a city job, but every time they come to the area, I got to go to jail and end up getting a $50,000 bond and have to post bail for $5,000. It's been 3 times that has happened. I had to give that money or either lose my job, which provides income for my family, for my children. I got grown children, and then I got a couple of young children. Nobody should have to have that type of fear that when the police come to their house, they getting ready to arrest you. Or when I jump in and get into my car, they're going to pull me over. I shouldn't have to have those type of fears at all. To walk outside, and at night, if I want to go running to get some steam off, I shouldn't have to be almost tackled by the police officers. I shouldn't have to live in any type of fear at any time in my life. That's going on too much right now. And it's affecting every person of color in the Del Paso Heights, the Meadowview, and also in Oak Park. Yes, in all of them. It has to stop. We have to have better training, more transparency, and we have to have an aspect where individuals that are being brought onto the force have the type of training that allows them to be able to see things clearly and not based upon an individual's color.
We have many more speakers here, if you mind.
One quick statement. I hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal
and women
and endowed with certain inalienable rights. These rights that God has given us, not man. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we got 2 minutes. 2 minutes is not enough because we have a very long period of history to discuss. But like my brother who came, my name is Ismail, but today, like he said, I'm Stefan Clark. Or should I say, I'm Fred Hampton. Or should I say that I'm Little Bobby Hutton? Or should I say that I am Medgar Evers? Or should I say that I am Martin Luther King? Or should I say that I am Malcolm X? Or should I continue to go on with all of the countless people who have been killed and murdered unjustifiably so? Each and every one of you that sit there, if you have not buried a child, you cannot say that you know how the family feels. I buried my own son. I buried my own brother. My mother was part of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. At the age of 14 years old, my mother created the free breakfast program. But because of the grief of what law enforcement did to that particular struggle, she committed suicide in January of 1977. I lived my whole life since the age of 3 without my mother. I went to school in Ferguson in Missouri when my parents had to run from crack cocaine in the city of Richmond. In Ferguson, in the city of Ferguson, I could not walk in public. In that county, in public, I could not walk on the street in the daytime, nor could I walk in the street in the nighttime without being stopped by police. So I'm really frustrated, and I have a lot to say. 2 minutes is not enough, and I'll go just a tiny bit longer. I'm just going to tell you something. Outside, you have a pressure cooker. You have a pressure cooker. And you got a choice. And it's only one choice. It's only one choice. You convicted in 2 police officers. You can make that choice. It won't bring Stefan back. It won't bring little Bobby back. It won't bring my mother back. It won't bring Malcolm back. It won't bring any of those people back. But you know what? It will bring about justice. It will bring about justice. And furthermore, what it will bring about is it will bring about some healing to trauma. Because hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. So if you And I just have to tell you about this, Mayor Steinberg. I don't know much about you, and I don't know much about the other city council members, but it's very insensitive when we come here to speak to you about our dead relative, right? Our dead relative. And we haven't taken time to eat, and you take time to eat.
No, I didn't.
So the point that it is that I'm making to you is this, is that you can make a decision. We're asking you and we're demanding you to make that decision. And you can make that decision now. Everybody else came in the interest of letting you go through the process. But I can't leave without saying that you already know what happened. Your videotape already showed what happened. Your helicopter man already knows what happened. The two officers already know what happened. They already know what happened. So just like if I, when I was in Elk Grove, just a month ago, trying to get a P.O. box, and the owner of the UPS store on Elk Grove Boulevard called the police department on me, a law-abiding citizen, on me. 6 police came, and a dog, right? And a dog came just because I was having a discussion with a lady who refused to give me a box because I am black and because I'm Muslim. Just as fast as they came, just as fast as they made a decision, you can make a decision. Right now, make a decision now. Don't let it go. Why? I'm telling you, Mr. Steinberg, I'm telling you, because I am a child. I am a child of the Black Panther Party. I am a child of the Black Panther Party. You know, the kid that jumped up on this podium, and he jumped up there, and he stood in front of you. That's Bobby Seale. That's Huey Newton. That's Fred Hampton. That's Malcolm. So what will happen? No, wait. What will happen? That doesn't matter, because I'm speaking for them as well. Okay? Right now, I'm speaking for them as well. Put that down for 1 second, please, kind sir. So this is what I'll say before I leave, because I waited a real long time to say this. Make a decision now. Make a decision now. When you go home and you go to sleep, think about all of the guns that the people have. Your people have right now. Think about the people banging on the windows. I can't stop them. I can't stop them. Only you can stop them. Only you can stop them. So if you want this to stop, if you want us to stop, if you want the banging to stop, make a decision tonight. Come in the morning and make a decision in the morning of what it is you're going to do.
Next.
My next speaker is LaQuay Felix, George Rea, and Gail Guest-Brown. LaQuay Felix.
Please read the names again.
The next speaker is LaQuay Felix, George Rea, and Gail Guest-Brown. Is LaQuay Miss Felix? No. George Rea?
Mayor, members of council, hi. As you know me, I'm George Raya, active in the Latino community. Please give me my chance to speak. I'm here, I get my chance to speak. Okay.
No, it's not. It's the people's house, and it's for everybody, young man.
Mayor?
Next.
Yeah. And as you know,
Raya.
This last weekend,
Mr.
I helped
Raya.
to connect.
Mr.
As
Raya.
you know, this last weekend, I helped to coordinate the March for Our Lives at the state capitol. At that event, I saw a rainbow color of speakers, and I'm really disappointed tonight that that same rainbow of color of speakers is not here tonight. If you are opposed to gun violence, which I am, it should be against all gun violence, against all victims. And so I'm really disappointed that there are not more non-black people here tonight speaking. I'm really, really disappointed. Okay. When earlier this week,
Please
Lieutenant
let the
Governor
speaker speak.
Gavin
okay?
Newsom said something that really struck home. He said, "It's time to acknowledge some hard truths. A suspect that looks like me would still be alive. Stephon Clark isn't. That must change." I'm not Stephon Clark. I was raised in Sacramento, born and raised here, lived in Oak Park, now I live in Midtown. I live in a safe neighborhood. I do not fear the police. But we have seen too many shootings in Sacramento. Too many black men have died. When I picked up the newspaper today and read the headline, Baton Rouge officers will not be charged in Anton Sterling's killing. I mean, enough is enough.
Thank you.
Gail Guest Brown, then Synovia Smith, and then Nicole Brown.
Good afternoon. My name is Gail Guest Brown, and I've been in Sacramento a very long time. It pains me to see my city in this state. I hope, a lot of people expressed that they didn't think things would change. I'm very hopeful. I have faith that things will change. It's time. It's time's up for killing young black men. We're tired. We're tired. And this is going to boil over unless things change. There has to be justice. We cannot support police shooting black men down with a veiled excuse of "I feared for my life." That's not going to work anymore. That's not going to work anymore. We know across this country that implicit bias is real. It's been documented, right? What are we doing to test our police officers on this issue of implicit bias? These are biases that people hold unconscious. If you ask them, they'd say, I'm not biased. But they grew up in this society, and their fear of black men and black women is real. And I think someone expressed earlier that if you're afraid, how can you protect what you're afraid of, right? How can you protect what you're afraid of? We need to ferret these people out of our police forces, right? We need to ferret them out, but there's a police culture where they protect each other, and that can't be anymore, right? We don't want this city to go up. I love this city. Come on now, let's get real. We need some justice here. You saw the video. They executed that man. 20 shots in his grandmother's backyard. That can't happen here. This is Sacramento, California. We can do better than that. We need to do better than that. I have faith in you to do the right thing. Do the right thing. No more. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Synovia Smith, then Nicole Brown, and then Karen Snyder.
My name is Synovia Smith. I'm not really good with my words, but I write poetry, so I wrote a poem. Say his name, Stephon Clark. Say his fucking name, Stephon Clark. He was 22. He had 2 kids, but that didn't stop the fucking pigs. 20 times, 20 bullets pierced his fucking skin. His family laid inches away from him You warned them not to look out the window for you had stolen Stefan away from them. Tell me what the fuck you had been thinking when you came up and you yelled hands, and within 3 seconds of speaking, this man's life came to an end. So fuck your apologies, fuck your sorries, and fuck your sympathy. Cause see, something's just not adding up to me. How the fuck do you yell gun, 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 and that turns up to be a phone, now this life man is gone. To make it even worse, he was murdered in the back of his own home. Stefan Clark, I wrote this poem for you, for I am not you, but I am you. My sons are you, and my relatives are too. I am so sick of being black in America. I am so sick of people challenging my character. Because I am black, that makes me a threat. They won't say it, but that's why he's dead. You were black in America. This land ain't shit, built on all people's back, but we got no rights to it. Tell me why as I write each line I'm crying, imagining you bleed out and be handcuffed while you're there dying, and instead of them calling for help, these sons of bitches call for backup as if you were gonna rise back up. The thought of this image makes me hold my kids, because being a black in America been a crime, but it gets swept under the rug. They label us thugs and continue to murder us. Stefan Clark was unarmed, non-violent. When the pigs murdered him, a white boy walked in a black church, killed 9 people, and walked out unlike them. Alive and well, the pigs even fed him. So if you don't know why the fuck this is wrong, just look up Tamar Rice, Mike Brown, Fidel Castro, Artin Sterling. It's the same fucking song. Scared cop, black person gunned down. This shit has got to end now.
Paul Brown, Karen Snyder, and Elana Nadal.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg, members of City Council, my community. My name is Nicole Brown Graves. And I want to say to you, regardless of the district, a rising tide will float all boats. We are all in this together. We need to help each other out and listen. I am my student's keeper. Black kids, brown kids, all kids are being slain, but mostly, specifically, black and brown kids are being slain in the street. And I am my student's keeper. I stand for the community. I stand for myself, and I stand for the students, the children of Rancho Cordova, Sacramento, Elk Grove, Galt, Wilton, El Dorado Hills, Rancho Marietta, Stockton, Lodi, and Merced. I've worked with children in all of these cities. Yes, please act like the children here in town, like Stefan Martin, are your own kids. That is what will propel you to do the right thing. Act as if the police are in your community and all over your families and looking for your families to do wrong every single step of the way. And that might lead what you can do to change policy. We appreciate you listening to us and hearing us, but it lulls us all into a false sense that we're doing something. While we appreciate you listening, we need an active policy change. We spend $30K or more on prisoners, and we spend about $3,000 on students. Please help us flip that policy so that we are spending for our kids to succeed. Right now, we spend for our kids to get caught up with suppression, and when they get suppressed and they get in trouble, the city profits. The state profits, and that's got to change. So again, if we're going to make money off of all boats and those tides are riding, everybody needs to rise at the same time. It can't be us over here and everybody else that you can relate to on some other plane. So we need policy changes. Whatever about being offended, it's the policy change. Policy change now. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Karen Snyder, Alana Nadal, and then Arvin Johnson Sr.
Most of what I have to say has already been said, but I came here to lend my voice, and I have to say that I am sad that I am one of the very few white people here to support this community. This is bullshit. So I'm going to go with what I wrote. So Saturday, I watched the movie which depicted the 1986 Medgar Evers murder trial. He was shot in the back in his own driveway. The murderer was not found guilty until 31 years later. In the 60s, 2 previous trials with all-white jurors exonerated this known supremacist. Here I stand in 2018 and wonder, how far have we really come? I am certainly not calling our police force supremacist, but there is absolutely a known and proven bias from police forces all over this country by seeing people as suspect simply because of the color of their skin. Isn't it time this endemic problem stops being denied and starts being addressed? Sacramento made a good start by police not interfering in a peaceful protest to let
What is happening? We're going to recess. We're going to recess for a few moments here. We're going to recess the council for a few moments.